Welcome to the Funding Fathers, where mortgages meet manhood and curiosity meets conversation. Your hosts, Jesse Cronin, Chad Paris, and Tyler Jenkins sit down with guests from every walk of life. Industry insiders, entrepreneurs, and everyday people with extraordinary stories. The topics, anything that fuels life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Pull up a chair, pour yourself a drink. The conversation starts now.
All right, guys, welcome back here at the closing table with the Funding Fathers. It's a great day. It's a great day. We got a special guest, Jesse. I'm going to let you introduce him here today, but we are excited. We are pumped because we have an absolute coaching legend here at the closing table with the Funding Fathers today. Jesse, without further ado, let's introduce this man.
I don't know that I can do this justice, but I'm going to give it a whirl.
Let's go.
All right. We've got today a man that has a record that, I mean, this is Bill Belichickian, right? A winning record of 336 and 78.
How many wins?
336 wins,
Jeez.
78 losses. And I'm not good at math, but that's an 82% winning record. That's from when he started in 1982. He coached until 2012. Over that period of time, he amassed 7 state champions as a head coach. He had 3 before that as an assistant coach. He also had an undefeated state championship team in 1969. He had 4 runners-up. He was inducted to the St.X Hall of Fame in 1996. He was the 2023 Riken Award winner, which embodies what St.X's mission is as a Xavier school. And he's the husband to probably one of your most important jobs, husband to Suzanne, father to Catherine, and a cultivator and mentor of thousands and thousands of boys who he helped become men. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Mike Glaser.
Yeah. Welcome.
I'm glad to be here. You made me sound good. I just thought I was a poor kid from Butchertown.
Well, listen, we all come from somewhere.
Yeah.
So did you go to, you said that. I actually wanted to ask you that. So did you go to, what school is it right there? Where you
St. Joe's.
St. Joe's, yeah. St. Joe's,
on
Butchertown.
Washington Street.
Yeah. Did y'all have sports? Like, was that like a St. Raphael or a,
Well, it wasn't like a St. Raphael.
Right.
It was a real small little school, but it had one of the best gyms. It was one of the gyms that had like a parquet wooden floor, but it was a real small gym. But it was a neat place. But no, we didn't have football.
You didn't?
Not in grade school. Played baseball, basketball. We had a bowling alley. That was a big thing. St.
At St. Joe's?
St. Joe's, not at St. Joe's. St. Joe's owned the Vernon Bowling Alley.
I was going to ask you. It's right by the Vernon Lanes. Yeah.
On Story Avenue. And I'm telling you, every Friday from 5th grade on, you'd walk down there and we had a bowling league, guys on Friday, girls on Tuesday. It was a great thing to learn how to bowl. And my first job, other than being a paper boy, I started delivering papers with my older brothers at I think 6 or 7 years old. I'd get up and help them when I was in the 1st grade. But my first real job was a pin setter at the Vernon Bowling Alley. You sit back there, and those pins would come at you.
Oh, fun.
I had more bruises on my shins because those guys throw that ball. Some of those guys, they wanted to throw that ball so hard, try to kill those pins.
Oh, yeah.
But that was my first job. It was a lot of fun.
Now, I want to back up.
I didn't know that was ever an actual job.
Well, hold on. Do not go past this for a second. I'm looking at Tyler right now.
Pin setter.
I've never seen a bowling alley that didn't
okay.
have an automatic.
You mean? Hold on.
Okay.
Go slow down.
All right.
Pin setter.
They bowl the ball, okay? It hits. You jump, you're sitting on a little parquet partition in between the lane and the rock. You jump in there and you pick them up. You had to get at least 4 at a time. One here, one there, one there. And your knuckles will get all swollen. So you get 4 and you throw them in the rock in any of the 10 spots, how many they knock down, and then you jump back up, you send their ball, it goes back, to them.
Yeah.
You could see the ball come back. It wasn't like underground automatic.
Right.
And then they bowl again. You better be out of the way by the time they got ready to go.
Well, Vernon has we
8
actually
lanes.
we love it. That's what I was gonna say.
8 lanes.
Are you hustling the whole 8?
No. You got 2.
You were
all right. So there were 4.
2 is still,
There
I
were
feel like
4
crazy.
pin setters.
Yeah.
So you had 2 because there was always 2 lanes going at once.
Never even heard of such.
Did you get paid in Hershey's candy, or how did you get paid?
Oh, no, you get paid I think we got $4 a night for a 3-hour shift. And I'm telling you what, it was hot, no air conditioning.
Oh, yeah.
And you're in the back of this bowling alley.
Oh, yeah.
It is hot. In those days, in the 1960s, everybody in the place is smoking. So you're back there down. We had a fan
Oh my God.
back there. They couldn't see us, only maybe our feet. But it was wild.
Little
And you
pin
pull that
elves.
pull that little, it's like a clothesline. Pull it and the
drops.
pins would go, it would drop the pins down.
That's so funny. So have you been there since they redid it?
I have been, and some of our classes from St. Joe's had some reunions down there. And, there are kids that went to St. Joe's, still live in the Clifton area, up on what we call the Hill, Kenilworth Court and that. And it's still, they go down there and hang out. It's like a beer joint still.
Oh, yeah.
But it's too fancy for them. So they kind of, drifted away from the Vernon because it got too fancy.
It's nice. We go there, not all the time, but their food's really good.
Yeah.
So I love the Vernon.
Yeah,
well, I want to back up. You said something. I didn't know this about you. Paperboy?
Oh my gosh.
So maybe that's what is a sign of, good
Y'all
people.
had,
Paperboy my whole life. Did you do that? They didn't know there was an afternoon paper. Did y'all do the afternoon paper?
Louisville Times, Courier Journal morning, Louisville Times. And bottom line is we finally gave up we had 2 routes because we had five boys. So we gave up our paper route when I started St.X because I was the last one. And I was, all the younger ones, so I'm playing football. And so for about the first, I think my freshman year, still had it. And we pay somebody to do the afternoon. I do the morning, but the afternoon, one of my buddies had to do it for us. And then Mom said, no, we'll give it up.
That's funny. So we had one forever. That's what put most of my brothers to
Right.
next. Bobby had one. Fernandez.
Right.
We were talking last night. The Bratchers had one, but yeah, that's paper routes were
big.
definitely
And the whole family, the Sunday paper, remember how thick the Sunday paper
stuffing it
was?
on Saturday night.
You stuffed them on Saturday night.
Oh yeah, our whole
Absolutely.
living room, like this size room, was full of
You
papers.
stuff them.
Oh yeah,
You all you stuffed them?
buddy, you'd pick up your papers. You had
I thought you picked it up. It was already done.
that was the
not
weekday paper.
The
was
weekday
done.
paper.
But you would pick up your sections. You'd have the Metro, and you'd have the Scene, and
You would get like a big bundle of the Metro in the business section and then Saturday night around 10 o'clock, you would get the last section, which was all the news and the sports of that day and that. And so you had to stuff that on Saturday night. You get to bed, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And we had 2 routes. And we had a lot of papers. So my dad on Sundays would rent a cab and he would ride it. He'd ride in the cab. We'd load the cab and he would drop them at about 5 different spots because you couldn't carry all those things because they were so big.
We had a station wagon, and the entire station wagon would be full, but then we'd have to go back and pick up more.
Right.
And you got to think, I was probably, when I started delivering, I was probably 5. I'm sure you were the same
That's
way.
about way.
Yeah.
I was first grade.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You see a lot of things at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's,
Without doubt. Without doubt. One day, one of my brothers took it. This person wanted it delivered around the side, and he thought he saw a dead body. But this old wino passed out, laying on this person's porch, and my brother John, came darting out there. There's a dead man. There's a dead. We laughed so hard.
Oh yeah.
Because my older brothers knew the guy, and he was always, drunk and passed out. But John thought he saw a dead guy.
That's funny. Well, I didn't know you were one of 5 boys.
Yeah, it was 4 brothers.
Yeah.
So I'm the youngest.
4 brothers.
4 brothers.
I think you said, okay,
4
you had
brothers
4
and me.
brothers. I got you.
So it's 5.
Oh, total.
Yeah,
just like
so
me.
it's 5 boys.
Math is
and a
hard,
sister.
Jesse.
Yeah.
And my sister, we ran her off. She became a Ursula nun. She was the oldest, and she couldn't take all of us.
I didn't know that.
So she was a nun.
Like literally ran her off.
We really ran off. Yeah.
I can imagine. I know how a house of 5 boys can be chaos. So I'm sure your sister was
crazy.
ready to go to the convent quick.
I mean, at one time, Dad put a limit on how much you could drink milk, how much milk you could drink. He'd charge us a dime for the second glass. You'd throw up a dime because I think a gallon of milk costs like 90 cents. Well, we'd go through 2.5 gallons at a dinner.
Oh yeah.
He put a stop to that.
Do you remember the old Pace, which became like Sam's Club?
Oh
Bacon Bush Lane?
yeah.
My mom would buy, no joke, 10 to 12 gallons a week.
Oh, without
of
doubt.
milk. Yes.
Without a doubt, yeah.
And I hate milk to this day, by the way. Like
Yeah.
I literally hate milk to this day because we had to drink it at every meal. There was no water. If you brought
Yeah.
water to the table,
No.
oh no, you had milk. Like it was, and I'm like, I don't want to drink milk. You know, I hate milk to this day. Coffee's it. That's it.
Funny you say that. One of my good friends, Denny Higdon, I'll never forget it. Scarred me for life. I won't drink white milk for the rest of my life.
Oh.
And I went to their house and they made some terrible dinner. And his mom, they set a glass of white milk in front of me. I didn't drink white milk. I didn't drink chocolate milk and I'd eat milk and cereal. Now I love that, but I did not drink white milk, and it freaked me out. I'm getting ready to drink white milk and eat dinner. I'll never forget it. I remember the table, the seat, the day.
Right.
I remember holding my breath, trying to get through it. So it's just funny you bring it up because it literally, you just kind of triggered me real quick. Sorry.
And the thing was, it was whole milk back then.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's heavy
Like I
too.
drink milk now, not a whole lot, but it's skim milk.
Oh,
yeah.
You know, and it's a lot different. But you drink that whole milk.
That
skim milk,
heavy
skim
milk.
That's thick.
This shit was like pudding.
It's like a milkshake. It's like a milkshake.
Yeah, it was a
Kids don't
milkshake.
drink it much.
No, skim milk
Kids
might as well
don't
be
drink much.
water. Yeah, exactly. So you said St. Joe's didn't have a football team. So how in the world's a guy that, you know, obviously, and I do want to throw this out there. ChatGPT, you know, we talked about it. I'm trying to get coaching in ChatGPT over here. ChatGPT made a comment that compared you to Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. I just want to throw that out there for the record.
Two of my favorite guys. I tell you what, yeah.
Two guys that two of the greatest all times of their, you know, their levels, obviously high school. So, you know, you're in that same league. How's a guy that doesn't have a grade school football team get into football?
Yeah.
Well, my brother Bill started playing at St.X back in 59 or 57. I think he graduated 61. So his last season was 60. Well, and he was my hero. So I followed him when he was in high school. I mean, I tried to go watch practices if it was on the weekend. Went to every game he ever played in that. When he got out and got into coaching and teaching, and so when I went to St. X, he says, "You're going to play football." And so I played, and I mean, it was a struggle because you go there. I remember first day I put my pads on, and they didn't back then, and that's where I learned to do every detail matters. So we get there, and the old brother's giving out equipment and I got thigh pads. Well, next thing I know, I got them the wrong side in because they were the big old thigh pads, and they had these points, and the points were supposed to be turned to the outside. I got both mine. My points turned to the inside. Man, I'm practicing that first day. I said, "This is uncomfortable. It doesn't feel right."
Right.
And my brother saw me, and he started laughing. He said, "Turn those around." Well, I didn't know how to get dressed. I didn't put any of that stuff on, so it was wild. So I followed him. Loved the experience of being a player where you just got a camaraderie in that. And I decided, I thought I might want to coach, but I really hadn't decided. And I was supposed to go away to UK, had my housing and everything. My dad had died, so I was going to be the only one home with my mom. And my brother Bill, who was coaching at St.X at the time, he said, "I got a proposition for you." I said, "Somebody's got to stay home, be with mom." He said, "We got to upgrade our freshman program." He said, "The brothers don't care about it. They're teachers." And he said, "Those 4 guys are fine with doing this. We want to get 4 graduates from last year. We want a state championship." Said,
Undefeated.
Went undefeated.
Yeah.
Said, "How would you like to coach?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, what, you go to school, but then you come over in the afternoons and coach our freshman team." I said, "Well, sounds pretty good." And then he finally said, and I still wasn't sure. He said, "Look, you can't go away to UK. You got to stay here." So I said, "Okay."
So you got voluntold.
And I'd gotten some money from Bellarmine, scholarship-wise. And so I said, "Okay, I'll do it." He said, "Okay, now go get 3 of your best buddies." So I went out. I got Steve Hagg. They're all St. Raphael guys.
Steve Hagg coached with you?
Steve Hagg, Steve Herfel, and Joe Williams.
Yeah.
All 3 of them.
Joe Williams?
Yep. All 3 of them were St. Raphael's guys.
Yeah.
And myself. And we coached. We started in the spring of our senior year. We helped spring ball to kind of learn. And I'll never forget, it was getting ready to get started. And my brother, I said, "Man, I'm just not sure." He said, "Look, here's the thing about coaching." He said, "The big thing is these kids want to be led." He said, "Even if you don't know what you're doing," he said, "you got to find out what to do. But at first, just act like you know what you're doing and be real confident." And he said, "They'll follow you." You know, and so It was all a matter of being prepared. So that's what got me into studying, being prepared, and make sure every time I went on the field, it was like a script. This is what we got to do. This is how we do that. To this day, I'm still a detail guy. I can tell you if you got a good program by walking in a locker room. You walk in a locker room, you look around. Is it neat? Is it clean? Everything, so you can remember as a player.
Oh, yeah.
We said left hook, helmet, or on the shelf, helmet, left hook, shoulder pads, right hook, jersey and pants. And I would go through there and critique every bit of that. Everything had a place. Everything had a purpose. And that's why we did offense and defense. You don't need a whole lot. But what you got, you better do well.
Oh,
that's the key.
Efficiency. So he had
reminds me of Coach D.
Well,
I would say it reminds me of Coach D. And when people ask me like why, like how was he so successful?
Right.
I'm like, that guy pays attention to everything.
Every detail. Exactly.
We practiced free throw blockouts.
Oh, without doubt.
Not free throws. Blocking out when we shoot free throws.
Well,
because they lost. It was, I think it was the national championship game or the Final Four game. There's like 5 seconds left. Someone misses a free throw blockout, tips it out, they hit a shot, game's over.
Yeah.
To this day, I still go to St.X games to critique how they line up on the Star Spangled Banner because we practiced it. It was right foot on the sideline, helmet in your left hand, everybody standing, looking straight ahead, and you better have that hand on your heart.
We had that rule. Hand had to be on your heart.
Yep, and you better be ready to go. Mm-hmm. And that's one of my things. Like I'll say, game day. I'll put that picture, and I got Austin Gahafer, our quarterback, right in front, and everybody was dressed the same too. Drives me crazy.
Oh yeah.
Everybody had the same color shoes. If guys say, "Can we wear wristbands?" Sure. They all got to be black, or they all got to be green.
Same color. Yeah.
They got to be the same. It's all about team.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I've got my notes here. Coach always had. I mean, you talk about like being spot on. Everything's lined out. I mean, our practices were down to the minute.
Right.
I mean, and you're talking about practicing free throws. We're practicing, and we'll get into it in a little bit. But when you have every detail lined out, our state championship senior year, we had a play drawn up defensively where we shifted the line to pull the other team off. And that was they jumped off sides so we could back them up 5 yards, so we could take them out of 3rd and 1, put them in 3rd and 6. So that type of stuff when you practice it,
right,
and then you deploy it. That's how that's obviously how you end up with a 308, 36 and 78 record. So your freshman team, obviously, when you take over that first year, did you guys have much success that first year?
I think we were like 9-2. We weren't bad. Yeah. We were really and did much better than they had done. When I was a freshman, we were 0-9. Didn't win a game as a freshman. Everybody quit. We ended up having 25 seniors when we won a state championship. But the first year, we changed things, and the thing that they wanted, detail, be physical, and learn how to tackle. And that was the big thing we did. So I think we were 9-2, lost to an Optimist team called Cabbage Patch. They were great.
Really?
They were it was down from like old Louisville. It was like a settlement. It was a community house for the neighborhood and kids that were poor. It was a great institution.
Really?
I mean, they had my respect, and a lot of guys that coached there also coached at Manual.
Oh, really?
And we had a great rivalry. And I think we lost to Trinity. Keith Calvin was a receiver, kick returner, went to IU, had a great career, played a little bit of pro ball. He was one of those first all-around athlete studs that I had coached against. So we lost those two and tied somebody. But then the next year, I think we went undefeated the next 2 years, and those two ended up being the 74 and 75 state champion, 25-0.
Yeah. So did you get elevated to the varsity?
So then after my 4th year with a freshman, I graduated from Bellarmine, and just pure luck, I applied at St.X, and I thought I would get the job because, man, I washed towels. I was a bartender at Christmas. I did anything. I said, I want my resume to say everything. All right. So I applied for the job. They had an English opening, And then a brother came down from up north, didn't get it. Oh, I was hot. I mean, but I said, okay, I'll stick with it. Well, luckily, the offensive line coach at that time quit. And so they had an opening, and they said, and my brother Bill became the head coach. He said, we'll move you up to, offensive line. And I said, great. And again, it was one of those things, God, am I ready for this? And I can remember going to my line coach, a guy named Ronnie Greenwell. I think he's passed away now, but he was my offensive line coach, and he was a great coach. And I went to him and I said, Coach, I said, what I do? I said, I'm going to take over the offensive line. He said, come here. He said, see that 7-man sled? He said, when in doubt. He said, you put them on there. He said, that'll make linemen out of them. And I go nuts to this day. I know you pass block and you do a lot of different things, but you better hit people, come off the ball.
Oh, yeah.
We don't own a 7-man sled anymore. Drives me crazy.
St.X didn't have a 7-man sled.
No. And so I don't know if but they block on people and they got those little soft dummies. Well, I'm telling you, I used to challenge you guys. You take that sled and not make them raise it up.
Oh, he'd ride.
And get them to try. And I ride that thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, that taught so much of those guys, not only from how to block, but endurance and toughness.
Oh, yeah.
They hated it.
I hated it.
Yeah.
We had to do it as receivers. I hated
we
doing it.
We put receivers, put everybody on there.
I hated sled work.
Yes.
Well, yeah,
Just
because
from a discipline standpoint, like just a work
just
ethic.
Well, also to have respect for the guys that are blocking for you, like, so you understand, like,
Oh, exactly.
like they're working
Yes.
their ass off to keep you safe.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
So I want you to know when you're tired and you're looking at them, like, these guys are working.
Have respect, but also, guys, let's be real. We ran the ball.
Right,
So
yeah.
as a receiver,
So he had to be a blocker.
We blocked a lot. I mean, like some of the best plays, you're downfield, you're still blocking 20 yards downfield, which it takes me back. So, obviously it's no secret. We were known as 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but I mean, obviously 336 and 78. I'm gonna keep going back to that. Obviously it won. How'd you end up in the Veer? Like, how did you end up running the option?
Well, and that's so funny. And it tells you about how people put you in a box. And so, I mean, we were in the option, the Veer. It started in 74. So my brother Bill got the job, and we didn't have hardly any option at all, but it was the big thing at that time. So we went and studied a guy named Oval James, and he was split back Veer. He put it in Houston, okay? And so we studied it, and a guy who played at South Carolina for him, a quarterback, was living in the apartments next to St.X. And I forget what his name was. And we went and studied it, learned everything we could about it. Lou Holtz was just doing it. And so this guy came over and demonstrated things. He would practice against our guys.
Living in the apartments. This
guy was living in the apartments. It just moved to Louisville. I don't know. He didn't stay in Louisville long. He had just graduated from South Carolina. But he was an option quarterback, ran the Veer, split back. And he would come over and he would talk to our guys, talk to our quarterbacks. We had Chris O'Brien and Rick Beener.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, well, let me show you how to do this. He'd run outside or inside Veer. And inside is really tricky because it's real close. So he'd tell the defensive guy, no. He says, you tackle me. He had no equipment on him. He's a pretty good sized guy. But he would run, he'd ride that thing in and pull it. They couldn't touch him because defensively you were taught to play assignment football and read your man net. And it was hilarious. They could not put a glove on him.
Well, a good option, a good Veer quarterback. I mean, like was it Army? Who's still Navy? Army and Navy still.
Oh, Army and Navy still do, yes.
So you're a magician,
right?
I mean, you were literally like
Without
you were a
doubt.
sleight of hand magician,
Right? Without doubt.
And I played quarterback, so my freshman year. And we ran at St. Raphael. So
Right,
when you talk about Joe
right.
Williams, Williams was my grade school football coach.
Right.
So I learned the triple option early, and you could get guys, defensive ends are like, oh, I'm gonna blow up this,
Right,
I'm gonna blow up
exactly.
this thing, and you literally ride him. He's talking about riding. You literally ride him in the belly. They jump on the running back, and you go around the end, and it's literally like you're pulling a magic trick.
Right.
That's what
exactly.
it is.
And that's what it is. Yeah. You leave somebody unblocked and you double somebody else and you're off to the races. And you got to be patient with it.
Oh, yeah.
Because you could go 3 yards, 2 yards. But the thing I tell them, 3 1/3 yards, you get a first down in 3 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so you got to be patient. But then that one time that the guy that's assigned to the dive or something, all of a sudden you're to the house.
Yeah.
So.
Well, because that's the other thing is the defensive end. You burn him once or twice.
Right.
Well, he's thinking, he's going to pull it.
Yeah.
And you literally, you ride him, you watch his eyes and you let it go. And you got a dude that goes up the middle for 70 yards.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a lot of fun. So we got in that. So I got in that as an offensive line coach, as a young coach. And so then when I took over as a head coach, we even, as an assistant, we would slowly, surely get away from it. But it was always the foundation of the offense, okay? Because what really got good in my career, so we kept it as a foundation, but then we had it was so funny. I mean, my last 15 years, we were so multiple as much as anybody. Now, did we throw it as much? Almost. Because if you really look at the great Trinity teams, when Coach Beatty was there, when they were great, is when he'd throw it about 15, 16 times a game, but he had a really good sound. That counter tray, they would run unbelievable. When he had good runners and good offensive line, then they were unbeatable. And so we were very varied, but the foundation was always the option because it's what people couldn't stop the goal line, the outside veer, and the sweep. And so we go to one of those two, and we'd line people up. And if you covered one, we're changing to the other, or vice versa. Or your year, we run the outside veer for state championship on 4th and 1.
Amen.
And they don't touch him.
We'll hit on that in a little bit. So, but between the great 74-75 team, obviously Bill goes to, which I had no idea, Moorhead for a year.
Yeah, he went to Moorhead.
Mike Stewart takes over.
Yep.
And they win one state championship?
We won in 78.
Yeah.
Now he had the pride. I mean, Coach Stewart's a great man, and I learned an awful lot from him. Learned a lot about how to treat people and how to just win with class and things. But because he had a lot of pressure on him, so we go 25-0. His first year, we go 10-2, and people are upset because we lost to Trinity twice. In 74-75, we beat him 4 times, 4 in a row. And so, there was a lot of pressure on him. And then the next year we had a rough year, but then we came back in 78, won a state championship, beat Trinity twice. And so it was a great year. And then we went on a run where we struggled in the playoffs. And in 81, we lost to the Cells in the playoffs. And he said, I've had enough. He had gotten in administration and he decided to retire. And God has blessed me because in 81, that year, before that year started, I started putting fillers out, and our athletic director, Paul Young, knew everybody, and he gave me 3 schools, Southern, Eastern, and I forget who else the third one was, but he had real good contacts at Southern and at Eastern, and they were going to have an opening at the end of that year. And I applied at both of those in 81, and it was right after I applied and I started interviewing that the job came over at St.X. And so I applied at St.X. and got it.
It's wild how a lot of this could have been Southern High School. I mean, or Eastern, or wherever.
It's crazy.
I'm saying wherever. I'm saying just not St.X. High School.
Right.
That's wild. So then you take over at 82, and is it a rebuild?
It's kind of a rebuild, but I knew being an assistant, I knew one of the things that and so I would kind of take everything I've been a copycat my whole life. So whatever, I took what we had in 74 and 75, and I watched what we did after those years, and we were very successful, but it wasn't quite the same. And the number one ingredient that happened in 74, 75, those guys will tell you, they were physical and they were tough, and we played great defense. And so the first thing we did, we said, we're going to institute an indoor program that's going to be no holds barred. And we're going to make a very tough physical football team. And I can remember tackling down in the
That's when you created the indoor. When he's saying indoor, guys, he doesn't just mean inside a building.
But we had it in 74, 75, so we had it all. But we got back to the way it was in 74, 75. I mean, it was indoor, inside a building, tackling, wrestling room, and then we take them outside. We had the old obstacle course.
Oh yeah,
and it'd be 30 degrees, snowing. We didn't miss a day. I mean, we literally had to put in rural that you couldn't miss school the next day because guys would be exhausted. He could be sick. And I said, I don't care. You're going to have to miss the indoor day, but you can't be missing school that next day. So evidently they took it to heart and they didn't miss any of the days because they knew they'd get behind if they missed the workout days.
But that helped get the guys, stronger, tougher.
Oh, it was all about, for us in those days, it was all about you better be disciplined, you better be precise, and you better be tough. And that's the way we survived the early years, because I'm telling you, it wasn't until like probably 86, 80, Sean Spalding probably was our first guy in the backfield that was below 5.0. I mean,
on the 40?
On the 40. And that's why we ran the option, because you could beat teams that were better than you by controlling the football, playing great defense. And then what I learned is after a few years, we started getting better as we won, started getting better talent one to take on. In the 90s, when you talk Tendai Cherasika, Jesse Cronin, Ryan Paines, Justin Haydox, Tony Woods. I mean, we had guys that could play, and we finally had guys going to college in that.
Yeah,
but it wasn't in the early years.
Yeah, because early on in '86, who'd y'all beat in the state championship?
86 would have been Boone County.
Boone County. And that was that 3-0 you said?
No, it was 28 to
that was
28 to
okay.
10.
That was 28.
But it still was a heck of a game, and they had a great. They totally controlled the state out in those years. Them and Tate's Creek, because in '78 when Mike Stewart was head coach, we beat Tate's Creek, and but again they didn't play very well on defense. People out of state just didn't put much stock in defense. Yeah. They wanted to be offensive oriented.
Well, so you win in '86, and Chad unfortunately is a Trinity parent. You win.
I'm a transplant for the record here. Okay, so just for the record, yes, my boys went to Trinity. I didn't.
He wears Trinity t-shirts.
Right. Okay.
I wore green today, boys. It's the only green I had.
I should have.
And it's close to that. Look at the X. That's pretty close.
I show up one night with some St.X gear. I should have thought about that.
That's actually a funny story. I won't get into the weeds, but when when the boys decided to go to Trinity, because they were St.X people, he calls me. He's like, "Hey, the boys." And I said, "Chad," I'm gonna be honest with you. If I didn't have a tie to St.X and I lived 4 blocks from Trinity, I'd be hard pressed to find a reason to send my kids to St.X. I said, but now if I had boys, hell or high water, they're going to St.X. Yeah. But so real quick, '86, y'all win, right? You're coming off. You're riding high. You got it rolling,
right?
Trinity the next year goes. Is that the start of the 50?
That's the start of their 50. Yeah, they're
52
or 50 something. Oh yeah. 3 state championships.
So how rough was that? You come off.
It was really rough. You want to know what really makes it rough? Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you what kind of nice guy I am. And this is a true story. This is an absolute true story. So you got to ask Jeff Brohm this, and I think he'll tell you the truth. So I recruited the Brohms. Craig was the older brother. Jeff's the younger brother. And great family. I love the Brohm family. I'm a U of L fan now, football, just because of them. Because I've always been a UK fan. Yeah. But Greg and Jeff were trying to decide where to go. And Oscar told me, he said, Coach, they're going to go to the same school. So, we just really don't know. So this week we're going to decide. Well, the night before the placement test, Oscar calls me. He said, Coach, it's hard to even tell this story. He says, Coach, Greg's going to take the test at Trinity. He said that I put him in a room. They've decided all Greg's friends go to Trinity. And he wants to go to Trinity. And I said, fine. I said, I appreciate that, and good luck to y'all. And, I won't bother you. So the next year, Jeff's playing grade school football, and I'm watching him and thinking, God, I want him to come to St.X. But, I didn't bother him, didn't recruit him or anything. It was always nice to him, and we'd always talked. And so he goes to Trinity. Has a great freshman year. I think he dressed varsity as a freshman. That's '86. Okay. So, or was that '86? No, that's '85. Well, so we beat them the first game, but in the second game, they beat us. They win the state championship. Okay. And they, I think I got my years right, but they got a guy named Brian Stallman, who is the quarterback. All right. Now, Jeff goes, and he's a freshman, and there's a state championship quarterback coming back the next year. Well, at Christmas time, I get a call from Oscar. He said, Jeff's thinking about, I guess it was the end of his freshman year, he's thinking about transferring. He'd like to come over to St.X. He said, we're ready to do it right now. I said, Oscar, I said, first of all, he's playing basketball. I said, he couldn't come in and play, get on the team. I said, stay there, finish basketball. And I said, secondly, I said, do me a favor. I said, have you told Coach Lampley this? He said, no. He said, we don't want anybody to know about this. I said, well, I'm not going to tell anybody. I said, but I will tell you this. If you don't let him know, I said, I won't recruit you or have you all come over without him knowing, out of respect to him. Cool. I said, just tell him.
Class act.
And I said, here's what's going to happen. I said, I think you're going to like what's going to happen. Because I knew Jeff was twice the athlete that Brian Stallman was. Brian did a good job for that year, but there wasn't much competition. So about a month later, he called him back and said, Coach, we're going to stay at Trinity. They're going to move Jeff to quarterback, or he's going to stay at quarterback. They're going to move Stallman to fullback. So the next year, he starts against us in 86, okay? Jeff does.
As a sophomore.
As a sophomore. Now, we win, and we beat him twice. And I think it was the first game. It's the only time that something like this ever happened between Coach Lampley and I. We were fierce competitors.
Oh, yeah.
But we always respect each other. We knock Jeff out. Chris O'Keefe comes on what we call an ad stunt. And Jeff turned around like that and got hit head on, straight back to you tackle in the face. And Chris knocked him out cold. He is laying, and I was kind of worried. Coach Lampley comes on the field. It's right on our sidelines. Well, he is cheap shot. I said, God dang, Coach, what do you want? It was just the emotion of the game because he loved the kid, great kid, everything else. So, but Jeff gets up because he's a tough kid. I think he even came back that game. I mean, that's the kind of kid Jeff was. But anyway, so we win those two games. But then 87, 88, 89, they clean our clock. They won 50 in a row. And it was Jeff Brohm. You couldn't lay it.
Damn,
we had
50
him
in a row.
We had him what we thought was a sack so many times. He was a magician. He was unbelievable and a competitor. Unreal.
Yeah. So,
he doesn't come to St.X. If he'd come to St.X, it might have been.
it wouldn't have been fair if he'd come to St.X because you'd probably have like 15 states,
Oh, yeah.
You'd have 3 more. You know what I mean? So it wouldn't have been fair if he'd come to St.X.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
Would you still make him run the Veer?
No, I would let him do whatever he wanted to do.
Yeah, no doubt.
But you know what? Now, back in those days, I mean, even when he was there, Trinity was sprint out and an option and everything. It wasn't, light it up type thing. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. So at 87, I'm a whippersnapper, 6 years old, right? So I'm not quite, but we went to every game, right?
Right.
It was a tough 3 years to be a St.X. kid. St.X. fan, because I'm sitting there. We got Old Cardinal, and Old Cardinal. I mean, you talk about coach, you talk about the environment. Papa John's is cool.
Right.
Old Cardinal was where it was at.
Yeah,
I mean, that's where it was at. But 3 years in a row, I go out and
we lose.
Tail humiliation. I can't even imagine.
Competitive or the relationship smashing?
They were always very competitive. And because
we used to tough years.
We lose 3 years in a row.
Yeah. But both programs were built on tough defense, excellent defense, great kicking game, and control of the offense. And Coach Lampley was just a unbelievable defensive coach. And I mean, those guys were great. And so it was always a war. And you talk about physical, and everybody in the city would come watch those games because it was such hard-hitting, competitive, tough games throughout the whole year. I mean, all through the 80s, 90s. I mean, it was always down to the wire.
We used to outdraw U of L.
That's
a true story.
Yes.
I mean,
so from an outsider, again, I love the perspective because being a little kid from Lebanon, Kentucky, Marion County, I mean, we knew St.X and Trinity just because of the names, right? And then you talking about newspaper, we got, I got the Lebanon Enterprise once a week, all right? So, but we would get the Courage Journal.
Lebanon Enterprise.
We would literally, baby, big time.
That's big time.
Big time. And, the Courage Journal would obviously make its way to Lebanon every now and then. And we'd see St.X and Trinity, and you're just like, you can't, being from a small town,
you can't
fathom. You just, you cannot understand the magnitude of what that is. So my first Trinity St.X experience, I was like, I mean, I feel like, you watched Friday Night Lights with, Billy Bob Thornton and stuff like that, the movie with Texas football.
Oh, we were talking about Friday Night Lights on WDRB Friday Night Lights. That's what I was talking about.
And I was talking Friday Night Lights, the movie, because that's the first, like, people seeing that, and they're like, oh, man, that's Texas football. No, that happens here in Louisville with St.X Trinity. And just to your point, like, I remember being like, they're drawing 35,000 people to a high school football game. It's incredible. I mean, like, it's unbelievable.
It was every year.
Oh, in our games in the 90s, so you talk about Friday Night Lights, like we would rush home for the 11 o'clock news to get to see what highlights were.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because there was no internet, there was no YouTube.
Right, exactly.
And so mom would have the tape in, and she would record, like when I'm playing, this is late 90s, so like VHS is still a thing. And she would record, every news channel if I'd scored that night or if we just, whatever we won a lot of games.
Right.
So a lot of highlights, but it was fun. Friday Night Lights.
It reminds me of Indiana high school basketball.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we
I try to explain it to people who have never seen it. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, it's serious.
Oh.
Like, and those kids, those schools, I had 1,000 kids in my graduating class, right? So we had 4,000 schools, and we weren't even one of the bigger schools.
Right.
Like, that was normal. And so when you're talking about the types of people you're competing against, Carmel High School is basically the only high school that's refused to split. Like, Hamilton Southeastern, where I went, technically has 2 high schools that have about 4,000 kids. Carmel has decided they're keeping them all in the same campus. Right. So they're like 8,000 to 10,000 kids.
At one school?
At one school.
Wow.
And Carmel's swimming team,
really?
Carmel's swimming team, I think, has won state for the last 15 years.
Well, do you want to talk about swimming real quick, Coach? How many straight years has St.X won it?
I think it's like 40.
Yeah, something crazy.
Yeah, something crazy.
No, but it just reminds. That's what I was saying. It reminds me of that because it's just like elite.
Well, and you talk about it, and it's a matter of the culture that you create. Because I can remember about 5-6 years ago, some of our guys went up to watch Romeo Langford up in New Albany, and they were at a game, and they said, "Coach, that's the kind of environment we want." And we started really building toward that. Now you come to St.X basketball, it's unbelievable. The atmosphere,
Madhouse.
things.
Really?
Oh my God!
I've been to a game in the new gym.
Oh my goodness, madhouse.
I watched him play Mayo last year. It was electric. That little freshman went.
And our basketball team is in a year's time will have traveled across the country on a plane 3 times. We were in San Diego last Christmas. We were in Philadelphia this June by plane, and we're going to Manhattan, Brooklyn this Christmas. And we play in a whole, all the best teams in Kentucky, then plus nationally, we're bringing prep teams in. We got this Made Hoops thing in December that's going to be unbelievable at St.X. So, but it's all about culture and environment. Mm-hmm. The opening game at Papa John's, we had 39,700.
Oh my!
It was
God.
on a.
That was my junior year.
It was. We played on Friday night.
It was my junior year.
And then U of L opened on
crazy.
Saturday, and they were kind of mad because we played the first game in Papa John's.
You all did?
Because they almost canceled, and they said, and we had a contract, luckily, because they did not want that to happen. They said, we said, well, you can play on Thursday if you want, or you can play on Friday. We'll play on Saturday. But it was unbelievable. And I mean, we used to pull that bus in there, and the tailgating and the things.
Oh.
I mean, there would be 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people in the parking lot as our bus would arrive an hour and a half before the game.
We outdrew Louisville that first game. So we play Friday, they play Saturday. We outdrew Louisville by, I don't know the exact number, ChatGPT could tell us, but I think it was like 5,000 or 10,000 more at the St.X Trinity game the night before than Louisville played. Now, granted, for fairness, Ron Cooper, I think, was the coach at that point.
Well, and it was just such a big thing. Well,
Really?
Bobby Redmond and I are pretty good friends, and he would kid. He says, I said, why are you playing on Thursday night? He said, because all my kids will be at your game, the St.X Trinity game. The public school kids come to St.X Trinity. So a whole lot of the public schools will play on Thursday night just because they want to get a crowd.
Yeah.
And because the kids would go to St.X Trinity.
Yeah.
So it was
That's wild. Well, I want to get back to basketball in a minute, but I do want to go back. So 3 years of Trinity, dark days in my life personally as a kid. What do you so obviously 91 comes around, you got a good team.
Right.
You got a real good team. So Trinity's rolling. So how did you keep the kids positive? But number two, how'd you get them rolling back in 91? I mean, just
Well, basically, you keep them positive with your culture.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the first thing. Any team I've ever coached, it's you remember the old team shirts.
I was going to ask you about it. Yeah.
It's about team. And we'd have 2-a-days, and then it was like a banner that, an award after, 2 weeks of 2-a-days and 95
Running the
degree
hills.
heat, running hills. We have a cookout, and you give them their team shirt. And that didn't signify that no matter who you were on our team, you were important. And I'd find a role for somebody, and I'd say, Jimmy, here's your role. You stand next to me, you cheer like crazy for the guys, and they'll hear you. And when you come, they come off, or if somebody chin strap breaks, we're not fixing that. Jimmy, you pull your chin strap off, you're giving it to Jesse, because he's got to stay in there so that St.X can win. And everybody knew that's the way our program, was run, and they all felt appreciated. And I mean, I can tell you, so we get it going in 91. So we end up having a decent team, but we're not picked to do anything. And we got Trinity beat. And this is one, I'm telling you, those suckers are lucky. But so we score into the game, we're running the option. All right, so Lee Wagner's our quarterback. He puts it in, and we'd always tell him, follow him, unless then you pull it and you go run in. Well, he follows him. We're on like the 1-2 yard line, and he follows him in, touchdown. And I know who the official was. I won't use his name because I'm telling you, and he was a Trinity grad. He calls aiding the runner. And now you can't aid the runner, but he said, "Oh, coach, he was pushing him in the end zone."
That was the early
He's a
push.
quarterback. He's holding on to the ball till it gets pulled. And he calls aiding the runner, 15-yard penalty. Now, we don't score. They win the game. That was our only loss in 91 until the state championship game. We end up 9-1. We run off 3 games or 4 in the playoffs. And so we're 13-1 going into the championship game, and we lose to Clark County in 91.
Is that
but
when
then
you
that
started?
I think started.
Is that when you started the team shirts? Like, when did you start the team shirts?
Oh no, I started 1982.
You did.
My very first year as the head coach. I learned 2 things as an assistant. Number one, my brother taught me that your freshman team's your most important. All right, that's why they got us to do it. And whatever you're doing on a freshman level sets the tone for your whole program. And so we made sure the freshmen ran the same offense JVs did that the varsity did. Same thing with anything I would ever coach. And then the other thing was, it's got to be about team. And that was, and I think Bill did that from being an older brother and keeping all 5 brothers together from killing each other.
Yeah.
Everybody has a talent. Everybody has something they can bring to the table. So team was really important. And we won my senior year in 69 because we all loved each other. We only had 25 seniors. We had like 55 guys on the team. But it was all about team. Everybody had a role. And so that's when I became a head coach, so I designed that team shirt.
Yeah.
And it was not anything, you always saw team, no me and team or where I and team. And so it was just those big 4 block letters. And I'd usually put a slogan under there. That first year was be the best, be a team, be the best. Everybody's important.
Which I feel like that's still one of St.X's all-time mottos, be the best. I mean,
Right. It is in tradition unequaled.
Yeah.
It was all things that you could rally a team around. I mean, and I had an administrator call me in one time, and it just shows you sometimes they just don't understand if they're on the outside. But he said, I don't think this be the best thing is right. It's not about pride. It's not about being the best. And I think this is a little bit over the top. I said, we got to go use names. I said, it's not about, I said, you're missing it.
Yeah.
It's about being, and then John Calipari, where was he? He could have kept me out of trouble. Being the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
I don't care. And I would tell my students, you don't have to get an A from me, but you have to be the best daggone student you can be. And if C's all you can do, you got to do that. If you're playing, I'd tell you, I don't know if you remember this one. I'd say we're only as strong as our weakest link.
Yeah.
So little Wes Lawler, who was a terrible wide receiver, couldn't catch a cold out in the wintertime, naked. But he was part of our team. And in 2004, we put Wes Lawler and Sean Lanning in to backup receivers. And one of the two, I'm not sure which, caught a touchdown pass in the end of the game because we had them in there because they deserved it because they had played all 4 years. And they go to chest butt each other and they fall down. That's how athletic they were. All right. But they had a state in the sidelines, went nuts.
Oh, yeah.
We dressed, I think it was one of the Montana, I forget who it was. I would dress guys that were seniors that got injured on our play, and I'd put them in there, and I forget who it was. In 2004, he stood behind the quarterback as the quarterback took the knee.
Chris Young.
Our year. We dressed him in your year.
Yeah.
Now, the year I almost got fired, we had a guy named Bubba Brutcher. He was senior night. And
Amy Willis's brother.
Dislocated his shoulder, I think, was his injury. Was senior night, and the guys begged me, Coach, we got to dress Bubba. I said, okay. And so here's sidelines, and Bubba saying, Coach, you got to put me in last play. I said, Bubba, we can't do that. He said, oh, Coach, please, I'll go 50 yards back. So like an idiot, I put him in, okay? He's at safety. He's like 35 yards behind whatever. It's the end of the game. I don't even know who we're playing. They break a run because we got all the other backups in there. Well, Bubba, he's chasing him down. I'm going, oh my God. Somebody finally ran him out. The kid, the team got about a 30-yard run, but somebody knocked him out of bounds before Bubba could get there. And I'd have been Monday morning, or I think maybe that night, Alan Donhoff got me. He said, what are you doing? And he says, that can never happen again. Because he wasn't cleared to play or anything. But God, my heart always went out to those guys because they put all that time in and they can't play their senior game, you know.
Oh, it's the worst.
Whatever.
Tony Bretcher would have been fine with you, though. Tony Bretcher.
Oh, Tony would have been fine.
Tony would have been fine.
Yeah.
It would have been
His
other
older brother,
people.
Matt,
Yeah.
Can I share an observation that, because you've talked a lot about culture, and I think, you know, that every organization I've been a part of that's been successful, that to me, that's what it comes down to.
Oh, yeah.
It's a standard. It's a way of being.
Right. Relationships.
Yeah. Well, perfect.
Right.
Because one thing I noticed when we were in your office, was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Days are blending together. Those kids knocking on the door.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wanting to get in.
In there. And it's really telling because those kids are 15, 16, 17 years old. And you've created an environment where they trust you.
Oh, that's the key. It really is.
Because you empower these kids, you invest in these kids. And that's what coaching is. That's what leadership is.
That's what it's all about.
And it blew me away because I'm like, it wasn't just like one. It was like knock, like 45 seconds later, knock.
And the wild thing is,
a minute later, knock.
There's only like 4 minutes between classes. There was like 5 or 6 kids. Yeah.
They didn't want to go. They didn't want to go see their friends. Nothing. They were trying to go to coach's office.
Well,
to eat or say hi or whatever. Like
the principal says, "What's the basketball land?" No, I said, "There's lots of other kids come in, but it's just a place they can stop in." And I do. I gotta be honest. We got little mini muffins or some more.
Might be a few snacks. Might be a few snacks involved too.
Even that
to come in. And you know, somebody said, "Why do you have food in there?" Because we got some kids from inner city and they don't. And my rule is, I'm not going to give you food in between classes and things in the middle of the day. But if you come see me before school or that first period because you haven't had breakfast, I'm going to get you something. I'll tell you what, St.X has a great, and none of this has come from me. This is the Xavier brothers. Their hallmark was that it's all about relationships. And that's what they built their school on. And we have a program there called Tiger Cares. And it's literally for people, if you want to donate money, like a lot of people donate to facilities or the student aid fund. And this is just to help kids that are poor, that it's just that little bit of go-to money that you don't have time to go through all the accounting and everything.
Right.
And it's for things like the front office has food there for those guys, can't afford in the cafeteria. They can wear either a green or black polo or a sport coat, to class. or just the shirt and tie. But there are a lot of kids can't afford the green or black polo. And once we find out who those guys are, one of the secretaries in charge of that, she gets her size, and a green polo or a black polo ends up in that kid's locker. Okay? He has that. There are kids that all of a sudden they forgot their lunch or they can't afford lunch or something. They'll go to one of the lady that's in charge of Miss Osborne, and she takes care of them. And then then they're never embarrassed, and nobody ever knows that, but they fit in. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing. We've got guys from very affluent to guys that are out of the inner city. And so, you know what? You never know it because we find a way. I mean, we're some guys that we take out shopping before the school year. She takes them out, and they got the shirts and the ties that look like everybody else's. They got the khaki pants that look like everybody else's. So we don't let anybody feel like they don't belong. And that's a big thing. But I appreciate you saying that because it's all about but it's nothing. It's what I was taught. That's why I'm still there, because I just love the place.
Well, and I want to say this before I forget. So, we're talking about the basketball lounge, but those kids weren't all basketball kids. Last night, Bobby Fernandez, we're meeting with Bobby last night. And before he left, he said, Bryce and Brock, his junior boys, he said, they've never played for you. They've never been on your team.
Right.
They weren't alive when Bobby was playing. And they said, Coach Glaser is St.X. Oh. His words exactly before we left last night was, he said, Coach Glaser is St.X. So your heart, the relationships, the community, obviously is special. And that's what, that's why those kids are.
I appreciate that. And it comes from what they did for me. I mean, my dad died at the end of my sophomore year. I'm 15 years old. And literally, we can't afford for me to go to St.X. It was only like $360 at that time. And Mom said, you're going to have to go to Atherton.
Wish it still was that.
That's a car payment, ain't it?
And so I take, and I'm heartbroken. And about 2 days later, before my dad was buried, Brother Conrad calls and said, I want you and your mom to come in. He brought us in. He said, you're good for this year. He said, don't worry about it. He said, but then after that, or after football, he said, you're going to start working there. And so I went there free as a junior. And then after, I don't think I started till the summer after my junior year. And so I went there and I cut grass and I gave chewing gum off the bottoms of the desk and everything else. But, that's back when we had a work study.
Yeah.
But they weren't going to let me not be able to go to school there. And it's always been that way. And then now we got like $4 million worth of tuition assistance. And what is great about it is that it used to be you could only give half tuition. That was the most you could ever give. Now we have an outside source. You give it based on need. So now, no matter what your situation is, if your need-based is offered to you. So we got guys from every part of the spectrum, economically that attend St.X. And so it's become so much more diverse. It's just a great situation.
No, that's awesome.
I've got two boys, and Maggie and I are both public school kids. So to me, and I'm from Indianapolis, so the whole private school thing to me is like we have them up there, but it's not. That's truly a status thing in Indy, like period. Well, it's not about the stuff you're talking about, but hearing what you're like now, I feel obligated. You're gonna love this. Like, I really do. That's what I want those boys to experience. It's what you just said. It's not even
all we want you to do is look. And that's the thing about St.X. We just say, if
the
you
brotherhood of it, I guess. Right.
To get the brotherhood, but look at what we can offer your son. And I used to be the admissions director. And I said, here's what it boils down to, especially like if you're a public school, even if people can afford it, it's something they've never had to do. And so it's a values decision. So here's what we can offer you. Now you might have to give up something economically to send your children there, but we're hoping we'll make it worthwhile. That's what we're working every day. What can we do that makes it special? We have so many clubs and activities and things because we want everybody to fit in. Mm-hmm. And what can we do like athletically now? Our president wants our teams to go across the country. Our swim team competes nationally. Our baseball team does. Our basketball team does. And that's something that's a little bit different. You know, we got guys that the first time they ever flew on a plane, first time they ever saw the ocean was with the basketball team.
Wow.
Okay, not to interject, funny story. Brent Bach, I was telling you about, Cincinnati.
Right.
His first time flying on a plane was when we went to the Final Four my first year at Bellarmine, and we flew to South Dakota to play at the Pentagon. He had never been on a plane. He's 20 years old, 21 years old, had never been on a plane in his entire life.
My first time on a plane, so 2 years UK, we didn't fly anywhere. I only got to go on the bus trips, right? I wasn't lucky enough, right? But my third year in college, I played baseball at US. First time I ever on a plane, we flew to Los Angeles. I mean, sports.
Yeah, right.
You know, obviously.
It's a long flight when it's 6 hours.
Something, that's something that separates that you got to keep doing those kinds of things to offer something special at your school. But basically, it's that brotherhood and that care for the individual, that relationship and that care. And that's the thing. All our teachers, we tell them, you're so important because you may be the one person that kid can identify with. It's not just coaches or counselors. It's every classroom teacher at St.X is taught. It's about, you got to have your eye. Our principal just put a thing out. Keep your eyes and ears open for the guy that just looks like he's fallen between the cracks. And we make that a hallmark of our school.
Well, before we go to a break, I want to say this because I've heard this 1,000 times and it resonates. And I got 4 daughters, and I think the world of Mercy Academy, Sacred Heart Assumption, Trinity, all these places. But you've heard this. Most people, they went to high school.
Right.
We went to St.X.
Right. It's different.
And that post high school, you hear this, both y'all, on a daily basis. I'm talking to a client. They're from Louisville. Right. The first thing that we start getting into.
Where'd you go to school?
You went to St.X. Oh, your brother in St.X. What year did you graduate? Oh, they were in 67. My dad was 67. They were in 73. Right. Did you know Willie Yates from the 74, 75 team? And so that connection, on top of all the brotherhood and everything.
It's the network.
It's the St.X Mafia.
It is.
I mean, it is. And you can get, I just had some work done on my house and the guy wouldn't let me pay because he played for me. And it's just amazing the connection that you have out there, that networking. And that's one of the things we sell. When we're recruiting, we're saying, you're going to join a brotherhood that's awfully big with well-connected
worldwide.
people. Yeah, worldwide. Yeah.